King Charles just laid Donald Trump out in front of the entire world during a joint session of the United States Congress. And King Charles did it without even mentioning Donald Trump's name once. Instead, King Charles spoke about the system of checks and balances and how the executive branch must function in coordination with and as countered by other branches in the United States government. King Charles talked about the importance of NATO and why NATO needs to support Ukraine. King Charles talked about how the word of the United States is important and matters, and the weight with which it carries should always be of paramount import, which there were then audible groans in the audience. Obviously, he was talking about the fact that Donald Trump has undermined the weight of what it means when the United States speaks, and there was even more than that. Let me show you what went down during this joint session, and I think you'll see how King Charles really was able to call Trump out in his own way. So here is where King Charles talks about the word of America carrying weight throughout the world. In other words, stop lying about every damn thing, Donald. Here, play this clip.
America's words carry weight and meaning, as they have since independence. The actions of this great nation matter even more.
Then King Charles talked about the United States Supreme Court Historical Society and how it calculated that the Magna Carta is cited in at least 160 Supreme Court cases regarding the principles of executive power is subject to checks and balances. What do you think he's talking about here? Here, play this clip.
Roots go even further back in history. The U.S. Supreme Court Historical Society has calculated that Magna Carta is cited in at least 160 Supreme Court cases since 1789, not least as the foundation of the principle that executive power is subject to checks and balances.
Next, King Charles talks about how in the immediate aftermath of September 11th, when NATO invoked Article 5, NATO was there for the United States. They were there with the United States in Afghanistan, and that moment and other moments with NATO have defined a shared experience and how NATO needs to be strong and how NATO needs to support Ukraine. This, as Donald Trump has invited Putin to the G20 in Miami at a Trump property in December. This as Trump continues to attack Ukraine. It's clear what King Charles was saying here and who it was directed to. Let's play this clip.
In the immediate aftermath of 9/11, when NATO invoked Article 5 for the first time, and the United Nations Security Council was united in the face of terror, we answered the call together, as our people have done so for more than a century, shoulder to shoulder, through 2 world wars, the Cold War, Afghanistan, and moments that have defined our shared security. Today, Mr. Speaker, that same unyielding resolve is needed for the defense of Ukraine and her most courageous people. it is needed in order to secure a truly just and lasting peace.
Next, as Donald Trump continues to attack the Pope, as Donald Trump posts AI images of himself as Jesus, as Donald Trump demeans religion. Again, whether you're religious or not, I always say here on this network, that's not a focus of this network. Whether you're religious, no religion, just be a good person. In any event, King Charles says, look, we need to respect the Christian faith. It's an anchor of daily inspiration. And again, who do you think this is directed at? I don't know. Maybe the guy who attacks the Pope every day and does AI images of himself as Jesus? Here, play this clip.
And, Mr. Speaker, for many here, and for myself, the Christian faith is a firm anchor and daily inspiration that guides us, not only personally, that guides us not only personally, but together as members of our community. Having devoted a large part of my life to interfaith relationships and greater understanding, it is that faith in the triumph of light over darkness which I have found confirmed countless times. Through it, I am inspired by the profound respect that develops as people of different faiths grow in their understanding of each other. It is why, it is my hope, my prayer, that in these turbulent times, working together and with our international partners, we can stem the beating of plowshares into swords.
And then there was this other brilliant moment where the cameraman immediately switched from King Charles to EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin, following this line from King Charles, as Rupert puts it. Here, play this clip.
As we celebrate the beauty that surrounds us, our generation must decide how to address the collapse of critical natural systems, which threatens far more than the harmony and essential diversity of nature. We ignore at our peril the fact that these natural systems, in other words, nature's own economy, provide the foundation for our prosperity and our national security.
Now, right as this speech was taking place, Donald Trump thought it wise to post an attack against Germany. Donald Trump posts, the Chancellor of Germany, Friedrich Merz, thinks it's okay for Iran to have a nuclear weapon. He doesn't know what he's talking about. If Iran had a nuclear weapon, the whole world would be held hostage. I am doing something with Iran right now that other nations or presidents should have done long ago. No wonder Germany is doing so poorly, both economically and otherwise. Donald J. Trump. This is the part where King Charles says, your words carry weight when you make lies like this about the German chancellor, about the economic condition of Germany. Your word doesn't carry any weight when you say that things are going well in your negotiations with Iran and Iran doesn't even want to speak to you. Your words no longer carry weight. Speaking of executive branch power, which was a theme of King Charles' speech. As the speech was taking place, we learned that James Comey was indicted for a second time by Trump's DOJ. This time, Comey was indicted on charges based on a social media post. Remember when MAGA was like, we think that the UK is an authoritarian state for prosecuting people based on social media posts? And there, the UK prosecuted someone who was making like actual threats on social media and off social media, far right-wing extremist, hateful, insightful speech. Well, here, Comey's allegedly being prosecuted for a social media post he made in May 2025, where he posted a picture of shells on the beach that spelled 8647. MAGA influencers like Jack Posobiec and others previously posted things like 8646 as it related to former President Biden. But now the Trump regime is trying to tie Comey's May 2025 post with the alleged incident at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, because as the Trump regime covers up the Epstein files, the catastrophic war, the disastrous economy, they want all the focus on that. And also, James Comey's daughter, Maureen Comey, won a big motion in federal court in Manhattan that said her lawsuit against the Trump regime can proceed. So now this indictment, I guess the Trump DOJ is now the social media police. If they don't like what you post on social media, if you hurt their feelings, they come after you. But I go back to King Charles' speech right here, which is the executive branch needs to have a check on its power. Article 1, Article 3, do your damn job. Also, while that speech was taking place, it should be noted that the Southern Poverty Law Center filed a motion in order to disclose the secret grand jury proceedings, because they say all the things the Trump regime said about them was an utter lie. They said, for example, you had Todd Blanche said that when the Southern Poverty Law Center worked with informants, that they never shared the information with the Alabama police, and they never shared it with other police departments. And the Southern Poverty Law Center says, well, of course we shared it. Where do you think they got their information from? Did you lie to the grand jury about everything to secure this indictment? Think about that, because that's probably what they did with Comey as well. That's what they do with Abrego. That's what they did with all of these people. And in a court filing, Southern Poverty Law Center accused the Trump administration of false claims. In addition to the false claims about Charlottesville, administration officials have made repeated false and highly prejudicial statements about the SPLC and its activities, including the fanciful and baseless claim that the SPLC is giving money to the KKK, an allegation not even supported by or contained in the indictment itself. They accuse Kash Patel of naked partisanship in a Patel Fox News appearance in order to try to keep his job. Keep your eyes on that. One other very notable thing, in addition to all of those clips I shared with you earlier of the UK ambassador to the United States saying that there is no special relationship between the UK and the United States. The only special relationship is the United States and Netanyahu at this point. Also, the UK ambassador to the United States back in February, as captured on this audio, said he's shocked that there's no consequences in the U.S. for the Trump regime officials for their cover-up of the Epstein files. That audio was released. But in addition to that, what's not getting enough attention was that Keir Starmer's chief of staff, Morgan McSweeney, who was responsible for bringing the prior UK ambassador, Peter Mandelson, onto as the UK ambassador to the United States before the new guy basically was brought on. They brought on Mandelson basically because he was part of the Epstein class. McSweeney was testifying before a foreign affairs committee before the UK Parliament, and he was like, yeah, if Kamala Harris would have won, we wouldn't have picked Mandelson. We picked Mandelson because he was Trump's guy. Of course he was Trump's guy. You're all part of the Epstein class. Here, play this clip.
Had Kamala Harris won the US presidential elections, I don't think he would have got the job. He was certainly lobbying for the job. He did, but I think that Oxford University shows he was also hedging because he didn't know whether he was going to get it or didn't think he was going to get it. So he was also looking at other opportunities. He did say to me when he was saying to me that he was interested in the job, that he was also going for Oxford University. And my view to him was these are incompatible. I don't see how you could do both. So
if you're telling him that it's incompatible, then you wouldn't be asking for official advice on whether he could do it part-time?
I don't think I would have, but I can't say for certain. And if
why wouldn't you remember something like that? I mean, it is pretty interesting.
I can't remember doing so. So I think you're right. I'd remember it if I would have, but I can't remember ever doing so.
There you have it, folks. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million, and thanks for watching.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.